State dressing just 8 players for this game, 6 scholarship players, 2 walk-ons who will see time. No Cade Cunningham for Oklahoma State. Chris, it's the obvious question, but what do the Cowboys miss without their superstar in the lineup?
Well, the guy with the ball ends up having to do a lot more. You know, the biggest asset that Cade Cunningham gives you is he makes other players better. You know, he is very unselfish. He's a table setter in many respects. So you miss that, and then late game. He's been so good for them late in games.
Sort of a piecemeal Iowa State lineup, missing their second, third, and fourth leading scorers. Rasheer Bolton is the star of this team, but they may have to lean on Tyler Harris, a guy who can shoot the basketball, though scoreless in 3 of his last 4.
And you know what, Kev? This is an opportunity for all these young players who haven't played a lot of minutes. This is a chance. You know, freshmen who don't play a lot sit over there and they think they should be playing more. All they do is complain, right? That's what freshmen do. Well, this is your chance, man. This is, you know, we are down guys. You got to come out and show you what you're capable of in a Big 12 game here.
Well, Steve Prohm said he likes all 3 of his freshmen. I think all of America likes this freshman, Cade Cunningham, sitting out in this one. Big 12 leading scorer, second straight game that he's missed. Again, not in COVID protocol, but they're taking it easy, easing him back into the lineup. Mike Boynton saying that the safety of his players and the long-term safety of them is his #1 concern. Long 3 by Avery Anderson is short. Here's Condit, big physical player, and boy, Steve Prohm will take that and then some, right?
Oh, that was terrific. You know, this is a guy who I think they've been waiting for him to give them more this season. Without Solomon Young, he's really their only post presence. What a move there on the block. You know, George Condit, he's 6'10", about 245 pounds. He's a junior. And, you know, again, another guy, it's time to step up. You know, this is your moment. A guy who has been foul prone, so tonight he's going to have to stay out of foul trouble. But you see early, man, without Rasheer Bolton having the ball in his hands, that's another option. Throw it to Condit on the block, and look at this.
It's a turnover. It's Tyler Harris the whole way, and who would have predicted this? The Cyclones jump out to a 6-2 lead. Well, Chris, we've covered the Steve Prohm angle of things. How about Mike Boynton? I mean, when he realizes just how shorthanded Iowa State's going to be, what's his message to his team?
Well, yeah, it's a really good point, Kevin, because, look, these are still college players, you know, and things can creep into their mind. You know, I think you say, look, this is a game, this is a team that's capable of beating you. It's a team that's going to play hard. There are a lot of guys who are going to play more minutes tonight who feel they should have been playing with a lot to prove. And you never really know, Kevin, what a team is going to do when they're down that type of personnel in terms of scheme. Both these teams tonight have already shown a lot of zone in the early moments of this game.
Well, that was something Steve Prohm told us, and a whistle and a foul on Tyler Harris. He said, you know what, we generally don't play a ton of zone. We're going to play more zone tonight than we've ever played before. And again, it's a numbers game. Only 6 scholarship players playing in this game. Just 27.1 points per game available for the Cyclones tonight, and half of that coming from Rasheer Bolton. And a traveling violation and a predictably sloppy start to this game. Chris, how about Steve Prohm telling us that he's had guys on this team not only learning new parts of the offense, they're learning flat out new positions to play due to the COVID protocol.
Look, this is unscripted. I mean, this entire season is unscripted, and I give these coaches and players a lot of credit for adapting on the fly. You know, you come back off of your COVID pause if you're Iowa State, and this is what you return to. This type of a lineup. This is this is chaos. I mean, there's nothing, nowhere else to explain it.
6 turnovers in the first 5 minutes of action. It's a 4-point Cyclones lead. If they made a jersey in his size, he might see time tonight. Iowa State severely shorthanded, only 6 scholarship players, 2 walk-ons available to Steve Prohm. No Cade Cunningham tonight. Oklahoma State on the short end of a 6-2 score. 4 minutes and 10 seconds into this one. Kevin Connors, Chris Spatola with you this evening. Chris, it's an Oklahoma State team who, despite being shorthanded on Saturday, played one of its best games of the season against the Baylor Bears.
Well, they got 2 guys to step up. Caleb Boone had, I think, his best game as a college player. He had 21 and 7 in that game against Baylor. And then Matthew Alexander Moncrief, the freshman, had an outstanding game. And I thought the changing of the defenses, some of what we've already seen tonight, a little 3-quarter court pressure, 2-2-1, back into a zone. I thought it kept Baylor off balance throughout that game. I mean, look, they went toe-to-toe with one of the best teams in the country for 25 minutes in that game. And then Jared Butler, one of the best players in the country, went off at the end.
This is Bolton with 5 on the shot clock. Long 3 by Rasir Bolton.
I really love this dude. I mean, I think you could hear it in my voice yesterday, Kevin, talking to Steve Prohm. I love Rasir Bolton. You can never relax when he has the basketball. He is so shifty and crafty.
And a turnover, and it's Harris the other way. What a start by Iowa State. A Cyclones team that is in the bottom third of scoring in Division I. They're the worst rebounding team in the Big 12. Fewest assists per game in the Big 12, and yet totally shorthanded tonight. They are roaring out of the gates. Second effort by Alexander Moncrief is off the mark. Here's Walker in transition.
And you know what it is? Iowa State's playing harder. You have a lot of guys that haven't played a lot of minutes this year. They are shot out of a cannon, and they are playing harder, and it has Oklahoma State on their heels.
Here's Keelan Boone. No, second effort put back up and in by Alexander Moncrief. Bolton goes to work. Turns it over on a whistle and a foul on Condon.
And that's a foul that Condon can't pick up in this game. You know, with no Solomon Young, down guys, I don't want to belabor the point, but foul, he has been foul prone, Condon has this year, and that's just a bad foul. He's now got 2, and you got to earn all 5 of those fouls here tonight if you're George Condon.
Well, Steve Prohm indicated that, look, at some point we may have to play 5 guards for extended minutes at some time. Here's Alexander Moncrief going to work, and Chris, they think that they may have found something in that combination with the bigs at Oak State.
Yeah, he is. I really like this kid, Moncrief. He's more of a grown man than I'll ever be. He needs to learn how to play the game. The one thing you haven't had to teach him is to play hard. He's physical, he's tough, he's capable as a freshman of playing in the Big 12. He just needs to learn how to play the game. But I'll tell you what, down the road, he is going to be a really salty Big 12 player.
Steve Prohm in his 6th season at Iowa State. He's taken the Cyclones to 3 NCAA tournaments, a pair of Big 12 tournament championships, won his 200th game earlier this season. Harris misfires, and here come the Cowboys looking to push in transition. Bucket and a foul will count for Bryce Williams.
They are dynamic in transition. And that's where, again, going back to that Baylor game, I thought they caught Baylor on their heels a little bit. They are really good. They got a lot of handlers. They got a lot of really athletic finishers. And Bryce Williams, the transfer from Ole Miss, Mike Boynton saying about Williams, he's, Cade Cunningham is our best player. Isaac Likely, our best leader. Bryce Williams is the second best at everything.
Shoots the three at a clip under 40%. And after a lackadaisical start, the Cowboys have gotten right back into this game. They force another turnover. In transition, Rondell Walker all the way. Chris, he was something of a game-time decision, and what a weapon he is for Mike Boynton.
He is, and his offensive game starting to expand. Defense is what got him on the floor. His defensive energy to start the year, becoming better offensively, more comfortable.
Cowboys have numbers again. Williams again to the cup. Wild effort, and it's Bolton who snatches the rebound. Three by Walker goes down. Jaden Walker, a three.
What a find by Bolton.
On the shot clock. Along the baseline, strong move by Alexander Moncrief, but it's sent back. The walk on Nate Jenkins in the game. That's Walker trying another three, and not that time. And Anderson a bit out of control there. Well, after a slow start, things have picked up here in Ames, and a good one for Iowa State. They lead by 6. Telling us I have a responsibility to our players, program, and university to help make things better. And Chris Spatola, he is a tremendous influence on all of his players, an outstanding leader.
He is, there's no doubt about it, Kevin. He is first and foremost a good man. I have, every time I'm around Mike Boynton, I learn something about being a human being, about the game of basketball. He's a terrific coach, and he also happens to be one of 9 black head coaches of the 65 power schools, and he takes that responsibility very seriously. I can't say enough good things about Mike Boynton. I enjoy being around him. I enjoy talking to him. He is first and foremost a really good man.
So engaging. He's a fellow New Yorker like the two of us are. And he's seen his team pull back to within 4 on the jump hook there by Caleb Boone. Product, Chris, if I'm not mistaken, of Bishop Lockwood High School, which has turned out so many terrific players over the years, among them our colleague Mark Jackson.
Well, the thing is, Kevin, you really don't have to look far to see why a coach is good. You just look at his lineage. I mean, he played for Eddie Fogler and Dave Odom. He's worked with Brad Underwood, Frank Martin, Mike Young. I mean, he's been around great coaches and great people throughout his career.
There's a running jumper and a good-looking one by Avery Anderson.
That is a tough shot. Any floater is tough, but the floater from the foul line, the degree of difficulty.
Here's Bolton getting in the lane, as he's so good at doing, Chris.
He really is a wonder. I mean, he leads them in points, assists, free throws, minutes. He's second in rebounding. I mean, almost every important statistical category, he leads them in.
Anderson comes up with it. Gorgeous feed to a cutting Rondell Walker. Well, the flow has definitely picked up here. It was a scary initial 4 minutes to this game, but the flow has certainly picked up, and a good feed on the interior to Dudley Blackwell, who had it contested. Walker is fouled. On his way to the bucket, Chris, the offense is picked up for the Cowboys.
It has. You know, they're starting to execute better against the zone, and I just think they're also playing harder than they were to start the game. Those are the kinds of broken plays. When your margin for error is so slim for Iowa State, those are the plays you have to come up with. But when you're doing it or trying to do it against a hard-playing team, and that's first and foremost what Oklahoma State is. They are, this group of any of the ones Mike Boynton has had is most reflective of the Oklahoma State mentality, the Eddie Sutton, those teams he had. This team plays hard, they're physical, and they're tough, and there's no back down.
I think that's a great point. And, you know, Coach Boynton made the point to us. He said, look, if we all agree that Gonzaga and Baylor are the two superior teams in college basketball, the fact that we played Baylor evenly for 30 minutes with such a depleted roster bodes well for us. There's an open three, and it goes down for Rondell Walker, who's had the hot hand in this first half. He's got 8 points.
Yeah, I said Alexander Moncrief is going to become a salty Big 12 player. Throw Rondell Walker in. I mean, when those are your two freshmen, just hard-rocking dudes who are not afraid, the future is bright.
Part of the heralded recruiting class that Mike Boynton put together. Obviously, the crown jewel of that not in the lineup tonight. Cade Cunningham up and under. And nearly a spectacular finish by Anderson.
And Rondell Walker did not play against Baylor because of an arm injury, not COVID related. And that's where his game has expanded, Kevin. He was not knocking that shot down early in the season. Again, was on the floor mostly for his defense.
Second effort put back in by Alexander Moncrief. Cowboys back in that active zone. They played so well against Baylor. Here's Likely. Left-handed finish by Ice Likely. First lead of the game for the Oklahoma State Cowboys. They lead at 24-23. And we're so excited for the SEC Big 12 Challenge coming your way this weekend. Some news and notes around the conference. Obviously, Baylor continues to be the class of the league, maybe of college basketball. Certainly 1A to number 1 Gonzaga, 14-0. Big news today that Shaka Smart has tested positive for COVID-19 at Texas. And Chris, how about you look at the Big 12 standings and see Kansas currently in 6th place?
Yeah. It's a new order, man. This league is great coaches who are, you know, obviously Kansas has had a big bullseye on their back, and it's tough when you don't know where your points are coming from, and that's been my thing with Kansas this year, as well as like Baji's played at times, Marcus Garrett. You know, those guys aren't the typical consistent scorers that they've had, and so scoring has been a challenge at times.
I mean, that's kind of been the trend across college basketball this year, and it's been talked about, but as Likely as an opportunity to finish the three-point play. And Chris, you talk about programs like Duke, who's in the midst of a 3-game losing streak. North Carolina has not played consistently well all season. Obviously, Kentucky has struggled. I mean, these are blue chip, blue blood programs who have really struggled.
Well, offense has been a struggle in college basketball over the last handful of years. I mean, let's be honest. And that's what makes Gonzaga and Baylor so unique this year, is they score so easily. We're just unaccustomed to seeing teams that are that efficient. But I mean, look, Duke, Kentucky, North Carolina, they're playing predominantly freshmen, predominantly young players. In a year like this, a pandemic year, that was going to be tough to begin with. But I think it's getting tougher and tougher. I really do. As these teams get, you know, whether it's transfers, which make you healthy quickly, it's just becoming harder and harder for a Duke and a Kentucky, for example, to turn those rosters over year in and year out with great success.
Cowboys in the midst of a 12-0 run now as Bernard Kuma finishes. Darlin Stone Dubar in the game for the first time. Here's Tyler Harris stepping back and connecting on the three.
They've needed more from him, and I think Steve Prohm has been waiting for him to break out. And this is a guy, the transfer from Memphis, a guy who scored over 2,500 points in high school, had a pretty good, good stretch last year when he was at Memphis. I think they were waiting for him, to give them something offensively, certainly more consistency.
Alexander Moncrief cleans up. Well, you're right, Chris. I mean, he's a guy who started off so well at Memphis, all AAC freshman team member, as Dubar works his way to the line. But Harris has played well in the early going here with 7 points. Well, our Super Tuesday doubleheader on ESPN and the app. We start in the SEC, 7 Eastern, with number 9 Alabama hosting Kentucky, and then we head to the ACC, Georgia Tech and Cameron Indoor squaring off against Duke. The Yellow Jackets playing so well. Chris, Alabama unbeaten in the SEC.
Well, we were just talking about offense. Now that's another team where offense comes easily, and a lot of it's by design. I mean, Nate Oates came in to that position as head coach there saying we're going to shoot a lot of threes, we're going to run and gun, and we're going to live and die by that philosophy, and they are living right now.
In a big way, and as are the Oklahoma State Cowboys. Walker hits another three, and Chris, this lead is ballooned up to 8 points.
Yeah, and a lot of it in early offense. Transition, layups early, and then early threes. Iowa State not doing a good job getting back, fanning out, setting its defense, and then fanning out.
Bolton stemming the tide. He's got 9. Wyatt first half, Rice likely. Alexander Moncrief the second effort, and Chris, he's been impressive.
He really has. He's the first ever 2-time All-Canadian Player of the Year. R.J. Barrett won that award. Thon Maker won that award. So a guy who was heavily recruited.
And Dynamite bloodlines too, right? I mean, he's cousins with Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Nikhil Walker-Alexander, both of whom are in the NBA.
Nice. Good play by Dubar.
Harris dribbles into the corner and out of bounds. 8-point Oklahoma State lead in Ames.
Well, the most cultured person I know is Seth Greenberg, Kevin Connors. So if anybody knows culture, it's Mr. Culture, Coach Greenberg.
Well said. You see the storyline of this one. Iowa State severely shorthanded. They jumped out to the big start, and Oklahoma State has climbed back in this game. And Chris, look, it's a Cyclones team that's got only 6 available scholarship players here. What kind of factor is conditioning on this team?
I think it's huge. They had a first wind, but the team's been off because of a COVID pause, and then you're playing a lot of guys who weren't playing a whole lot of minutes to begin with. So that, I don't know if that second wind ever came for Iowa State. It did for Rasheer Bolton. I don't know about the rest of them.
Tyler Harris is short, and you're right. And I think it was something of a wake-up call too for Oak State. Maybe, hey, look, they're shorthanded. We're going to come out and dominate. That wasn't the case early on, but efforts like Matthew Alexander Moncrief in this one have fueled this 10-point advantage.
And you notice LaFonso Ellis zeroed in on Moncrief, and there's a reason, because there's not a lot yet, but there is some LaFonso Ellis in Moncrief. What a hard-playing dude, all over the glass.
Well, there's no question about it. He has been a major presence in this first half, 12 points. The offensive rebounding edge in favor of the Cowboys by an 8-1 margin. They've been crashing the glass. They're one of the best rebounding teams in the conference. Iowa State is not. And you can see the combination of Moncrief and Walker have been a huge factor.
They're picking up for their freshman buddy, Cade Cunningham. And what did Mike Boynton tell you and I, Kevin, before their game against Baylor, what he said to his team with Cunningham out? He said, look, this is an opportunity for guys to step up. And that's exactly what he got. Caleb Boone stepped up in that game. Moncrief stepped up. And Walker did not play in that game, obviously playing here tonight and doing his part. So guys stepping up in the absence of Cunningham.
And I thought Mike made a great point where he said, you know what, look, Cade makes the game easier for other guys. And when he doesn't play, those guys have to make plays for themselves. And he's got to be very pleased with what he's seen here in the first 18 minutes of basketball. Bryce Williams, gorgeous feed. Moncrief can't finish. And then the turnover by the walk-on Jenkins. Now there's a look at Cade Cunningham, projected #1 overall pick, not in this game. Second straight game he's missed. Chris, I'm curious to get, look, we've seen so many players go the college route, but others have gone directly to the G League or overseas. What do you think, Cade Cunningham, where has he benefited most from this college experience, in your opinion?
I think he's been well coached. I mean, look, he's got the relationship with Cannon Cunningham, who was on Mike Boynton's staff. Mike Boynton started recruiting Cade when Cade was a freshman in high school. Mike Boynton was going to see Kyler Edwards, who obviously ended up at Texas Tech. And then a couple years later, Mike hires Cannon Cunningham, who was at Tulane. Very smart hire, by the way. And then Cade Cunningham ends up here. And one of the points I've tried to make about Cunningham, Kevin, is he's been really well coached. And you could tell with some of these highly regarded freshmen when they have not been well coached. And, Austin Rivers, when I was at Duke, really good kid, really wanted to do the right thing. He just hadn't been well coached before coming to Duke. Cunningham's been really well coached, and I think that has continued. They've showed him how to prepare, how to practice, all the things away from the floor. And then, by the way, Ice Likely's presence. That's the other thing that's been so impressive to me. There has been no jealousy. Ice Likely's been a point guard for this team for 2 years. Cade Cunningham comes in, this big reputation, and Ice Likely steps off the ball, says, here you go, freshman, it's your show. No jealousy. To me, that says a lot about a culture of a team, and it says a lot about that guy, Ice Likely. He's very secure in who he is and says, freshman, you do what you got to do. That says a lot, man, and that's very uncommon.
Well, so much so, Chris, that he's allowed Cade Cunningham to be the star. And, Mike Boynton said, you know what, look, at times, Isaac, we need you to be more of a guy who looks for his shot. And despite the fact that Oak State is up by 10 in this first half, it has been a quiet first half for Likely. There's Boone going to work and an offensive foul. Just the 5th team foul called on Oak State, so no shots yet as we approach 1 minute to go in this first half for Ames. Dubar goes to work. Good defense by Caleb Boone. Boy, they are really pounding it inside as Boone is able to finish.
That was a great catch.
As Bolton attacks and earns his way to the free throw line. Chris, there's been a concerted effort by Oak State to really pound the ball inside.
Well, they have a huge size advantage, and this is an okay pass. Actually, it's not a great pass at all. But you trust that Boone is going to make that catch. And that's where, again, a guy, Caleb Boone, struggled at the start of this year, coming off his best game, I think, in an Oklahoma State uniform against Baylor, had 21 and 7. And that was an aggressive stepping to the ball to make sure that we retain possession, and you usually get rewarded. And there he got rewarded with a bucket.
The points in the paint advantage 32-14 in favor of the Cowboys. Timeout on the floor as Oklahoma State leads it by 10. We had a nice women's game before ours tonight. We've got a terrific game Thursday. Number 4 South Carolina in Starkville. They take on number 21 Mississippi State. Dawn Staley, Aaliyah Boston, and the Gamecocks undefeated atop the conference. Bulldogs 3-3, 7 Eastern ESPN, and streaming on the ESPN app.
Yeah, you said it, Kevin. South Carolina, after they were upset early in the year by NC State, has rolled so far in conference play.
2 Big 12 teams in the top 25. Kim Mulkey's Baylor Bears and West Virginia at number 24. Chris, they can play for one. What do you want to see here?
Well, interesting. Iowa State in a man. So I'd love Ice Likely downhill and then offensive rebounders behind him.
Down to 5 to shoot. Corner 3 on the way by Boone is off the mark. And a first half that saw the Cyclones jump out to a big lead, and Oklahoma State put together a terrific shooting first half in the final part of things. 12 points by Walker, 12 points by Moncrief. It's the Cowboys in front 41-31 at the half. Kevin Agandi, Seth Greenberg, LaFonso Ellis coming up with the E-Trade halftime report after this. Ames, Iowa in late January, or as they like to call it, a great night for basketball. Now, their Cyclones have some work to do here in this second half. They trail Oklahoma State 41-31. Kevin Connors, former Army star and Duke assistant Chris Spatola. The Cyclones led by as many as 12 in that first half, but Oklahoma State came storming back. Chris, we started the broadcast by saying who's not playing, Cade Cunningham, but who are playing are 2 young stars for Oklahoma State.
Yeah, 2 freshmen. Like, people tuning in were hoping for the highly touted freshmen, and they ended up getting Rondell Walker and Matthew Alexander Moncrief. 2 guys who have gotten better as the year has gone on. That trend line continues. They were monsters in that first half, particularly Alexander Moncrief. 12 points, 8 rebounds. And I thought this game changed, Kevin, when Oklahoma State started getting themselves to the basket, be it in transition, be it in the half court. They are dominating in the paint. They are dominating on the glass. And it really, after the first 5 minutes of the game, it was really an onslaught there for Oklahoma State.
53% from the field in that opening half. If you're just joining us, only 8 players available to Steve Prohm and the Cyclones tonight. 6 of them scholarship players. Oklahoma State, as we mentioned, playing without Cade Cunningham. But there he goes again. Moncrief up to 14 points. It's a Cyclone team still eyeing its first Big 12 conference victory. Here's Condon, who was in foul trouble in that first half, played only 6 minutes. Wild jump hook using the window, Chris.
Did you hear glass?
I did. Junior out of Chicago, up to 4 points, and they really tried to establish the post game in the first half. An offensive foul called that time on Caleb Boone. Well, here's another look, Chris, at the Condit jump hook.
Well, this is the Moncrief drive first, and this is, speaking of Condit, going right into the body of the 6'10 Condit. And then Condit says, I got you back in a game of horse. I'm calling glass with the jump hook from 15 feet away.
Bolton, nice feed along the baseline, up and under, and Jaden Walker can't finish. All right, so Chris, what's the recipe in the second half here for the Cyclones to get back in this game?
Well, they have to stop turning it over. I mean, that is what killed them. Their margin for error is really slim tonight. And then they've got to do a better job getting back and setting their defense. Like, you can live with Oklahoma State if they're driving the zone or if they're executing in a half court, but this game changed in transition. When Oklahoma State started getting out and running, and not only did it lead to layups, but it led to those open threes, those early threes in transition. And Steve Prohm, Kev, changing to the man-to-man here. They played mostly zone in that first half.
Again, he told us, Chris, from a purely manpower standpoint, they were going to be playing more zone here in that, and they did in that first half. So if you're Oklahoma State and you see that defensive change, what change do you make?
Well, now this is where Isaac Likely, you get him in some of their ball screen stuff, you get some of those downhill drives, and look, Iowa State's going to go back to zone, but I think if you're Steve Prohm, you show a different look. You try to buy a few possessions here at the top of the half like they just did there.
Bolton attacking. Dubar may have gotten away with one. Steps back, and that time they call him for the travel. You look at the difference in turnovers, 14 for Oklahoma State, but many of them were early in the first 4 minutes of this game. They've done a better job taking care of the basketball. And as Chris pointed out, obviously a big reason why they lead it by 9. Off the set inbound, they find Caleb Boone.
And a real good sales job by Caleb Boone. He flares to that elbow, acting like the ball is going to come to him. He uses his voice to con the defense, and then a nice little back screen and a cut to the basket.
15-foot jumper by Jaden Walker, and some fluidity here to start the second half from both teams. Here's Bryce Williams going to work. And he'll earn a trip to the free throw line. Chris, as you pointed out, nice set inbound.
Well, there's the sales job. Bob McKillop, the great Davidson coach, used to, or still does, say you have to have an act. A big part of getting open is setting your defender up. And part of that is using your voice, using hard cuts. And when you flare to that elbow, he sold it, got the nice back pick. Really good execution on the under out of bounds.
Watching that replay made me think of the finish between Stanford and UCLA over the weekend, and Oscar Da Silva working his way open. Chris, that one felt as much about good offensive execution as it was poor defense.
And you could say the same about this one.
Yes. 10-point Cowboys lead. They've done a nice job on Bolton despite his 12 points. Here's Condit down low. Likely in transition as it batted away. Dubar to the basket, challenged at the rim by Moncrief. And last touch by Tyler Harris.
I mean, Matthew Alexander Moncrief, are you not entertained by this young fella? What hasn't he done? He's scored, he's rebounded, shows you his ability to race a bucket at the rim.
I mean, 14 points, 9 rebounds. And, you know, the more you see, Chris, of Moncrief, and from what we've seen out of Walker in this first half, and you know what Likely's capable of, and then you've got the projected #1 overall pick sitting on the sidelines here. This Oklahoma State team is rounding into what could be a serious problem in the Big 12.
Well, I mean, you look at even the games that they lost, take the Baylor game out of it. I mean, they are a fraction away from being undefeated in this league or having the one loss to Baylor. I mean, they even in their losses, they've been highly competitive. And as these freshmen, I mean, we're seeing it laid out here tonight, as these freshmen continue to get better, and then you get Cunningham back, there's no doubt, Kevin, that we've already seen it. I mean, the Texas Tech win, the Kansas wins, the way they played for 25 minutes against Baylor, this team is tough, and they believe. I think more than anything, they believe that they're good.
Confidence growing in Stillwater. Nice feed by Condit down low. Harris will reset.
Caleb Boone saved the basket there by reacting.
Harris misfires, and here come the Cowboys the other way. Williams finding Boone, but they got to travel before the basket. Here's Cade Cunningham. We'll talk much more about the projected #1 overall pick in the NBA draft coming up after this. Welcome back to Ames, Iowa. Well, he warmed up, but they decided to play it safe. No Cade Cunningham tonight. Projected #1 overall pick. ESPN NBA draft analyst Mike Schmitz with more on the Cowboys superstar.
Cade Cunningham is a can't-miss prospect, largely because of his versatility at 6'8", with the ability to play 1 through 4 on both ends of the floor. Now, he can score it at all 3 levels, but I love that he makes everyone around him better with the poise of an NBA vet. He's incredible in pick and roll. Here, reading that weak side defender who's committing to the roll man at the rim, throws a laser to the corner, creates a long closeout and a bucket for his teammate. But he doesn't just do it offensively, okay? Game on the line. Crunch time here. He's in perfect position off the ball, unleashing his 7'2" wingspan and excellent timing to erase the shot at the rim. But he's not done, okay? Then he saves the ball from going out of bounds, leads to the go-ahead bucket on the other end. Those are winning plays from Cade Cunningham. You don't often see that from a #1 caliber talent. Cade Cunningham, a complete stud on both ends of the floor.
Chris Spatola, he has size, he's athletic. As you said, he's been well coached. Does he remind you of anyone in particular?
He reminds me the most of Brandon Roy. You know, and I've heard the Grant Hill comparisons. He doesn't play exactly, particularly in a half court, like Hill. He reminds me at times when he gets out in transition. But Brandon Roy, he was so under control, the poise, the ability. Neither of them were great athletes, but they were above average athletes who could get to wherever they wanted on the floor. And in part because of those size dimensions that you know, we talk about with Cade Cunningham at 6'8". But he is wise beyond his years. There's a lot you can't teach that young man. And, you know, I think character is first and foremost. You bring him onto a team, the way he's fit in here at Oklahoma State and his teammates love him, that's a big-time deal for NBA teams who are investing in a top 2-3 pick.
Well, so he's one of the most talked-about freshman guards in the country in terms of his potential, and certainly what he's done on the court so far. For the folks in Spokane who are tuning in on ESPN2 tonight and saying, hey, you know, we got a pretty good one ourselves in Jalen Suggs. How do you compare Cade Cunningham and Jalen Suggs at the next level?
Well, it's going to be close because I love Jalen Suggs. Jalen Suggs is a killer. And I think Jalen Suggs, you know, has shown you, you know, Suggs is a better shooter. you know, in that position at that level, you have to be able to knock down a perimeter shot, particularly out of pick and rolls and off the bounce. And that's not to say Cade Cunningham can't, but right now Jalen Suggs can do that. I think Suggs' ability, you know, to put himself on the floor, straight line drive. He's certainly, I think, quicker with that first step than Cunningham is. But you know, look, beauty becomes in the eye of the beholder, and I think there's a lot to love, obviously, about both those guys. And to me, right now, they are 1 and 2 in this upcoming draft.
One being who?
I think right now Suggs is 1. And I hate to say that, calling this Oklahoma State game. But again, there's a lot of basketball to be played. And one of the things that, you know, Suggs benefits from, I mean, look at the offensive talent around him. Now, the offensive talent here at Oklahoma State is developing and getting better. But that's another area where Cade Cunningham has made every single guy on this team when he's been out there better. And to me, he's had a larger hurdle to climb in that area than Suggs has.
Cowboys lead is ballooned to 15. Yeah, I mean, just to finish the thought on Suggs and Gonzaga, I mean, it's quite possible as the 3 goes down by Tyler Harris, and they needed that. It's possible Suggs is the #2 overall pick and maybe not even the player of the year from his own team, right, with the year that Corey Kispert has had, and even Timmy to a certain extent. Harris in transition. And back the other way come the Cowboys. They've been so good in transition. The cutting. Moncrief nearly threw it down. Back we go with Bolton, a basket and a foul. And just like that, the Cyclones have a chance to cut this lead to single digits.
That was frenetic. I mean, you've got a really good challenge there by Jaden Walker. And then here is Bolton. And again, he's so under control. His eyes are up. He's reading what the defense is going to do. And then he is so shifty and crafty when he gets into that paint to finish.
Bolton up to 15 points. And a bolt of energy back in this building. Cyclones have cut it to 9. Of course, they're back in that zone again. Likely probing. Gives it up. 3 by Rondell Walker goes down, and a big-time 3 by the freshman.
This is a guy who has only shot at 33% on the season from 3. You would have no idea by watching him tonight.
And the defense leading to another opportunity in transition. Walker chases it down from the other corner. Of course, your word, frenetic. The pace is picked up, and the Cowboys lead it by 12.
With the program, I thought today was a great opportunity 3 years later to let him know that he's going to be on scholarship. Nobody has exemplified what I want our program to mean more than you have. All right? You've worked your butt off. You never complained. You show up early. You stay late. And to do what you did for this semester, to sacrifice and continue to come around. Thank you to the wonderful people here for allowing us to do this. But you earned this, man. And so I'm glad that you're with our program and look forward to continuing to work with you, sir.
The story of D. Mitchell, one of the fabulous stories in college basketball, and he's checked into the game the first time tonight for Oklahoma State. The story goes that in 2018, he went into Mike Boynton's office, said, "Coach, I want to be a part of the program, be it a player or a student manager." Mike Boynton said at the time he didn't have any openings on the team. The story continued to play out that the Cowboys needed to dismiss several players from the team. They held open tryouts. Mitchell showed up. He was clearly one of the best players on the court. Mike Boynton took him on the team as a walk-on. All the while he's working at Walmart, Chris, to supplement what the costs were to attend Oklahoma State with his mother He'd been on the team since. It got to the point where he just couldn't afford it anymore. He needed more hours at Walmart. He went to Coach Boynton and said, you know, it's a situation where I can't do this anymore. Mike said, you know, we want you on the team no matter what. They kept him on the team. He was awarded a scholarship. Mike Boynton said of all the players he's coached, his favorite out of all of them, Chris, may well be D. Mitchell.
It's a story you want to tell your kids. You know, you have kids, Kevin, right? Like, the greatest thing I as a dad can impart to my kids is the value of hard work. And that's what D. Mitchell signifies. And, you know, for Mike Boynton to do it in the fashion that he did, it's an incredible moment. And you know, again, speaks to this program. I'll tell you what, I mean, it gets you a little misty-eyed, man. It's an incredible story. And again, I think of my kids, and if they could grow up to be half of what D. Mitchell is and to do what he has done, I'd be pretty proud.
Well, Mike Boynton said the same thing. He said D. Mitchell's among the hardest workers on his team. He says he's made others better. He's never complained about the circumstances. 3 off the mark by Dubar. And he said just what you said, Chris. He said his own children, he hopes that they emulate D. Mitchell. He's that spectacular of a kid.
Well, and Mike was clear. He said, look, we're not putting him into these games. He played in big minutes when the game was still tight against Baylor. And obviously he's in here tonight in an 11-point game. He said, I'm not putting him in there as some charity. Like, we think he's a good player, and we're putting him in there for him to give us valuable minutes.
Dubar knocks down the 3, and looky here, 55-47, nearly 10 minutes into this second half. And the Cyclones force a turnover.
You know, we haven't made enough of the turnovers tonight for Oklahoma State. I mean, that's why this is an 8-point game. Oklahoma State has been sloppy with the basketball throughout.
$20 turnovers for the Cowboys right now.
I mean, against this lineup that Iowa State has out there tonight, with all the players they're missing, 20 turnovers, if you're Mike Boynton, that cannot be acceptable.
Well, it's a season high.
I mean, they're in a zone. Iowa State's been in a zone, and they've turned it over 20 times.
Oh, missed opportunity by Dubar, a chance to cut the lead to 6, and he missed a close one. As Dubar is whistled for the foul on Avery Anderson. So 3 fouls on Dubar, 4 on Condit. A big part of the story for Iowa State. Anderson, corner 3. Kept alive by Boone. Second effort by Caleb Boone. Second chance points, a big story. The length of Oklahoma State clearly a factor here. Step back 3 by Tyler Harris, and he's fouled in the act of shooting.
The scouting report foul. I mean, 80% of Tyler Harris's shots on the season are threes. I mean, that's what he does. He is in there to shoot threes. And you're just a little overzealous. I mean, Tyler Harris only about 5'9". Make him shoot it over your length on that contest.
As you see, Rasheer Bolton attempting to walk one off on the sidelines there. Big 12 now on ESPN Plus is a must-have for Big 12 fans. Thursday, number 15, Kansas hosts TCU at 7 Central, plus February 2nd, the number 11 Mountaineers at Ames to take on Iowa State. 2 teams square off again February 16th. If you're a Big 12 fan, you've got to have it. Sign up today, ESPN Plus. ESPN.com/Big12 now. All 3 free throws for Tyler Harris, and it's back down to a 7-point game. Foul on the floor that time on Dudley Blackwell. His second personal. Quick trigger by Rondell Walker, and he rattles home another one.
And that was well contested. He may have gotten fouled, too. What a heck of a shot.
Of course, we hit it at halftime, but these two freshmen have been outstanding. Moncrief and Rondell Walker putting on a show here in Ames, Iowa. Avery Anderson probing, looking down low to Boone, and an opportunity for a three-point play for Caleb Boone.
He is a different man, Caleb Boone, than he was to start the season. I thought he was thinking too much early in the year, and the thought paralyzed him. He just needed to go out and play instinctive basketball. You know, don't worry about the future. Run your own race, and I think he is in that headspace now. He certainly has been over the last couple games here. He was outstanding against Baylor, and that trend has continued here tonight.
He's 7 of 7 from the field. He's got 9 points in this second half, and you made a great observation. 20 turnovers, that's a huge part of the story for the Cowboys, but the flip side of what Mike Boynton can point out the positives: 15 for Boone, 14 for Moncrief, 18 for Walker.
Well, and they've dominated the glass and they've dominated the paint, and that's why they're up 11 in a game where they have turned it over 20 times.
Great hustle by Walker. As Moncrief steps on the end line, the freshman leading the charge for Oklahoma State, who lead by 11.
Well, back to Kevin and Chris.
All right, Kev, thanks very much. 12-point road lead. Chris Beard and the Red Raiders. .11-point road lead for Oklahoma State here, 63-52 in Ames, Iowa. Kevin Connors, Chris Spatola, a game that saw Iowa State jump out to an 11-2 lead, but Oklahoma State got back in it by pounding it inside. They've gotten big games out of the freshman Matthew Alexander Moncrief and Rondell Walker, and they lead by 11. Harris behind a Condit screen. Dubar wrestles for it, and the possession arrow will stay with the Cyclones. For those of you who were keeping an eye on the Texas Tech West Virginia game, we'll talk more about that in just a bit. Timeout on the floor. Cowboys lead it by 11. We're back in Ames, Iowa. Kevin Connors, Chris Spatola. We take a look at tonight's Wendy's Wooden Watch. Cade Cunningham not in the lineup, but the Big 12 leading scorer coming into this game. Jared Butler, of course, and the fabulous year that Baylor is having. And over on ESPN, Derek Culver and West Virginia with some work to do on their home floor, trailing Texas Tech right now. 11-point Oklahoma State lead. Off the inbound, Dubar unable to grab it, but it's last touch by Likely. to 10 on the shot clock. Here's Jaden Walker. Harris, a long three goes down, and Oklahoma State pulls back to within 8. Chris mentioned Walker is on the floor. Or rather, Harris is on the floor to shoot the threes. 3 of 7 from behind the arc in this one. Here's a three from Rondell Walker. We're having some technical issues on Chris's end. We'll work to get him back as soon as possible. 8-point game, down to 6 to shoot on the shot clock. Anderson. Tough bucket by Avery Anderson. Well, every time Iowa State tries to cut into that lead, the Cowboys find a way, and that time it was the craftiness by the sophomore guard Avery Anderson, pushing the lead back up to 10. Matthew Alexander Moncrief has been a huge part of the story for Oklahoma State in this game. The freshman with a major impact down low. His presence felt with Condon in foul trouble, and then on the defensive end as well. A little bit of everything from Matthew Alexander Moncrief on a night Cade Cunningham is not in the lineup, but a very encouraging sign for Cowboys fans that this freshman and the freshman Rondell Walker is stepping up as well. Batted away by Walker on cue. Rondell Walker throws it down, and the lead is back up to 12. Walker is up to 20. Here's Bolton going to work. Tough shot. Spiked by Caleb Boone, and the Cowboys a chance to run again. In transition, Moncrief finger rolls it home. The ability of Oklahoma State to get out and run has been the difference in this game, and Steve Prohm will take a timeout. Iowa State had carved into that lead, but the Cowboys getting out and running. Moncrief in transition, and then the previous play, fantastic individual effort by Rondell Walker in the open floor. He has 20. Moncrief has 16. Caleb Boone has 15. And the trio of Cowboys powering Oklahoma State to a 14-point advantage. Oklahoma State shooting 61% in this second half. They're 56% from the field for the game, and despite 21 turnovers, lead this game by 14. Harris gets it back, launches the three, and it rattles out. Likely all the way to the cup, and a left-handed finish by Isaac Likely. An 8-0 run has upped the lead to 16. Bolton fouled on his way to the basket on the reach-in effort by Avery Anderson. Oklahoma State has converted on 7 of its last 8 field goal attempts and opened up a 16-point lead. We said at the top of the broadcast it was going to take a superhuman effort by Rasheer Bolton. He's up to 18 points, but a 16-point lead. Reminder, Super Tuesday presented by Progressive, 7 Eastern. Kentucky takes on number 9 Alabama. And then in the ACC, Georgia Tech. What a year it's been so far for the Ramblin' Wreck going into Cameron Indoor. Take on a Duke team in the midst of a 3-game skid. Bolton makes both free throws. The lead is 14. And just like that, right back up to 16. Here's Condit going to work. Rims out for the junior. Danger time right now for the Cyclones as Anderson converts on the layup. He's got 9 in the second half, and Oklahoma State has opened up its largest lead of the game. The double team forces the turnover, and here come the Cowboys again. Alley-oop. Good-looking feed from Boone to Moncrief, and it's up to 20. A 12-0 run for Oklahoma State. Bolton misfires, and a traveling violation called on Boone. Dominant stretch for Oklahoma State to open up a 20-point second half lead. ESPN's exclusive. All right, Kev, thanks. It's an Arizona State team. Last time out, lost to their rivals 84-82. Wildcats ended the game on a 15-6 run and a puzzling season so far for Bobby Hurley's team. Preseason top 25. And it has not gone as expected. The Sun Devils. "20-point game. Oklahoma State in front of Iowa State. Here's Condit muscling his way to the basket. And the best looking play all night from George Condit. Condit's up to 6 points. But you get the sense that maybe the shorthanded nature of things for Iowa State, it's taking its toll down this stretch. And of course, Oklahoma State having a lot to do with that as well. They're shooting the basketball so well in this game, nearly 60% for the ball game. Walker gives it up. Moncrief fouled on his way to the rim by Bolton. Now that combination has been lethal. And it sends Moncrief back to the line. 18 points, 12 rebounds, and a pair of assists as well. It's been something of a coming out party for Matthew Alexander Moncrief, who's put together a double-double in his second straight game. Well, a reminder, it's the SEC Big 12 Challenge on the ESPN networks this weekend. A terrific matchup, Kansas, Tennessee. 6 Eastern from Knoxville, and then Rupp Arena, number 5 Texas taking on Kentucky. In the storied history of those two programs, they've only met twice. Both Kentucky wins back in 1993 and 2014. John Calipari desperately trying to figure out how to get his team on track. 8th edition of this powerhouse rivalry between the two conferences. Every one of the Big 12 teams will play. Here's Dudley Blackwell. Fouled on the jumper by Kuma. So it'll send the freshman from Miami, Florida, Dudley Blackwell, to the line. .6'6", 215 pounds. He is a versatile athlete. And they're excited about what the future could be here in Ames with Dudley Blackwell. If you're just joining us, it's an Iowa State team whose roster has been decimated by COVID protocol. Only 8 players available to Steve Prohm tonight. 6 of them scholarship. Cyclones jumped out to an 11-2 lead, but since then, it's been an uphill climb. This is Walker going to work. They try to establish Kuma down low, and it's a turnover. Technical difficulties. We're trying to reestablish Chris Spatola from his home in North Carolina. Kevin Connors here with you. Here's the road ahead for Iowa State, right? I mean, they have the COVID shutdown here. They missed 4 consecutive games. The remaining schedule as of right now, anyway, 11 games in 29 days, 6 of them coming on the road. They played Kansas in consecutive games in mid-February. I mean, it's part of the challenge across college basketball, but this Iowa State team in the past few weeks has been hit very hard by COVID protocol, and it's going to set up for a difficult final 6 weeks of the regular season. Here's D. Mitchell, and he has it taken away. Harris checked by Keelan Boone. Steps back, launches the 3, and it's short. In transition, why not one more time for Matthew Alexander Moncrief. No Cade Cunningham tonight, but the other freshman, Matthew Alexander Moncrief, with 20 points, 12 rebounds, 20 points for Rondell Walker as well. The Cowboys started slow through 4 minutes, but really turned up the heat over the final 36. An Oklahoma State team who went 5-7 on the road last season. They will improve to 6-1 on the road here in the 2021 campaign. One more time, a dominant effort by the freshman, Matthew Alexander Moncrief. Oklahoma State's going to get back to 500. They shoot a season-high 59% from the field in this one, and they move back to 500 in Big 12 play. 81-60. A career high for the freshman from Ontario, Canada. Powering Oklahoma State to a road victory over a depleted Iowa State team. Arizona State coming up next here on ESPN2 for our outstanding team. And all the folks in Ames, Iowa. Chris Spatola, Kevin Connors saying thanks so much for watching Big 12 basketball.